And good morning. Welcome to to the Grow Your Business Today program. I'm your host, Darsweil Rogers, and we are the kickoff for WID Wake Up here on a Friday. This is a pre-recorded session because I really wanted to get an interview with um, an individual who is running a very successful charter school that has been recognized either at the state or the national level, kind of on a perennial basis. You can call them, an all-star charter school, and in particular, when you consider the challenges that we have had through the pandemic, I should probably say the challenges that we've had in general with education, and then when you consider the challenges that have taken place through the pandemic, I thought it was an excellent opportunity for me to invite for my audience Ramona Wilder. And Ramona, thank you so much for joining me on the program this morning.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to let you go ahead and discuss, Wilder Preparatory Academy. Go ahead and frame for people what the school is, where it is, and a little bit about the success you've had, and then we'll kind of roll from there.
Wonderful. Well, again,
And I'm sorry, did I say a little bit about you, a little bit about Wilder Cannabis? Let's put you in there first and then roll from there.
No, you didn't say that first, but okay. A little bit about me. I am a born and raised native of Los Angeles, California. My family roots are Southern, as my parents are from a little small town called Warren, Arkansas. And since we are talking about education, I'll give you some of my family history that brings us to this point. So the Wilder family, since the 1800s, we have generations of educators. So way back in the 1800s, my great grandfather, a minister, had a church school at the time when education wasn't a civil right and they weren't supposed to be educating people. They were teaching our freed slaves to read. And that is how the first Wilder school actually was established. From that point on, to bring you forward, I'm a fifth generation educator in the Wilder family. My parents, the late Raymond D. Wilder and Dr. Carolyn Wilder, established Wilder's Preparatory Academy Charter School in the city of Inglewood, California, in 2003. We were the first charter school ever approved in the city of Inglewood when the charter movement was first getting started. The idea behind that was previously they had private schools, and the community as such, there were so many families that needed quality education but couldn't pay for education. And so charter was the perfect opportunity to open up a school that you could operate as though it was a private school, but have it as a free public school for educating our students. And that is how Wilder's first started. As for myself, as you asked me, I majored in business administration and had a 42-year career in aviation with several major airlines. I had the pleasure of going through management training at a very young age and had a very successful career in airline management, and was able to retire from that after 42 years and take over the Wilder schools after the passing of my father. And so that's how I am where I am today.
You have given a wonderful history, and I can't help if I go back to your 5 generations grandparent and ask, was he an African American or a white man?
He was African American.
Okay.
It's hard to tell what the mixture of African Americans were back then, but for all purposes, he was and acted as a African American.
I asked the question only because you made the point that it was at a point in time where I don't know, are we talking pre or post Civil War?
Um, I would say pre.
Yeah, when you talk about it being illegal to educate slaves, that gave rise to the question as to whether or not if they were doing this covertly, well, in order for him to do it covertly, that would imply he was educated.
Yes, and that is has been a question for me because we're talking about like in the 1830s or
Right,
something like that.
right.
And so that history is interesting to me. I would imagine that the slave owners, back at that time, as we read, they did teach the young children that parents that work for them, to read.
Yes,
Um, so that's what I'm assuming because they had to be taught by someone informally how to read in order to be able to teach others. So that
correct.
part is still a mystery. It was a challenge as the church building was burned down several times.
Mm.
So it definitely was back in a struggle when they would find out what was going on, that they would burn the building down and they would have to rebuild the building. The interesting story was that he owned the land. So that had to have been gifted by slave owners.
Yes.
Very interesting and facts that there's no one to ask,
Well,
the
there's
truth.
definitely no one to ask. That part we can agree on for sure.
So I would say that is what started the value of an education, in our family and the importance of it. And it makes me reflect on the true meaning of how you have to help others and bring others up because we are all one, and that was the philosophy of what they did for the community back in that time.
So when I've been talking to you about wanting to get you on to have this conversation for a couple of years. When I first brought it up to you, you had just been awarded there was some sort of federal recognition that you had gotten as one of the top schools. Can you kind of relay that and we can talk about some of the other accolades?
Sure. And it's been some time since we've been talking. I would imagine, fortunately, we have been blessed with several awards. So we've had national recognition, which is the National Blue Ribbon School. And that is where all of the schools in the United States, you're competing against those schools to see which schools have the most success in the state standardized test scores for students all across the US. So there's several hundred thousands of schools in there, and they select, I would say approximately, I want to say like 20 in the entire United States. And for California, we were the school that was chosen with a 85% population of African American students, and the other, which are primarily Latino students. So we're all students of color at our school. But very proud feeling to know that amongst all of the students all across the United States, that our school ranked highest in English and math. Those are the two testable subjects that the state tests for all schools. So that was one major award, naturally, because it's a national award. So that really,
and that's the Department of Education that in effect provides that, correct?
correct.
So what grades do you cover?
We are a kindergarten through 8th grade. So we have two schools that are charter and elementary, which goes kindergarten through 5th grade. And then we have a 6th through eighth grade, which is now considered middle school.
And so I want to kind of cut to the chase now because education is if there's an industry in the United States that is roundly criticized as not getting the job done, education is almost always right there at the top of the list. So I'm going to put it this way: what's the secret sauce? What are you all doing that you believe has resulted in perennial recognition as a top performing school?
Thank you for that question. Everywhere I go to speak or just to visit, that is the single question that everybody wants to know. What's the secret sauce behind Wilder's? And there's no easy answer to that, but I'll give you some philosophy about it. We have a thing at Wilder's, and it's called the Wilder's Way. Mm-hmm. And we have a certain way of how we do things. It is not specifically geared toward how to teach. It's a philosophy, and it's an unspoken thought of do things the Wilder way. And that has a lot to do with values, morals, principles, and a desire to want to be the best and to instill that in students. So, for example, a little bit about the Wilder Way and what that means. And we take each letter of that, and this is what we teach our students and we teach our kids. We tell them that the first of it with the W is that you have to be, we instill this in them to be their better selves, to be receptive to the learning. So for one, you've got to be worthy. You've got to be committed to assuring that everyone is truly valued and everyone has a certain amount of worth. And that's what we instill in the community, from the students to the staff, to try and get the parents to buy into that as well. We talk a lot about integrity, and that is to build a nurturing culture that truly promotes things like honesty and morals and principles. We teach our students and staff about leadership, influencing and guiding the members within our school community to not only do for themselves, but to be able to lead and inspire others. The D, we teach about being determined and dedicated to what your passions are and what you have to do. The E in Wilder's, we use it for having excellence and to be committed to that excellence for your personal self, but for those in your surrounding communities. And for R, we talk about being reliable and responsible and respectful, those types of things, truly instilling this in kids when they're in a young age so that they value and take responsibility for what they need to do in order to be the best that they can be in getting their education. The S in Wilder's we use for just being successful and what it means and what it feels like to be successful. And for way, we go with being well balanced, which gets into the social emotional piece to a being. And A is adaptive. And the Y is for yes. And most say, well, what is yes? And it means yes, you can learn. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can try. Yes, you can succeed. And then this is a part of the curriculum, actually. I mean, everything is not English and math, but we need to teach about being whole beings. So we get kids and families to understand that these are values that we want to instill into the kids. And then we get to the actual curriculum of teaching. And I'll share a little more about that. But that's our saying, the Wilder's way. And we say to our kids, well, who are we? And they say, we are Wilders. And then we instill in them that they truly build the future. That's one of our school mottos. And we do that the Wilder's way. And that's what we call it. As far as curriculum and education goes, we are all bound to teach a set curriculum, and the state requires a set type of books, educational books. We have one classroom teacher, and what we've decided to do is we have a intervention teacher assigned to each grade level. And so that intervention teacher assists the teacher who's teaching the lesson, but for kids that are below, the intervention teacher works with those students and aides in the classroom, and even those students that are above, they work with them because we want them to even be, higher than what they are. And in addition to the intervention teacher, we also have a teacher's assistant. So we built our staffing around support to try and encompass every need and every challenge that we come with, to make sure that the students are getting and understanding and have the support that they need in order to adapt to what the curriculum is. So there's no secret sauce to it, but it's building a philosophy and a moral value on what the importance of education is, and trying to instill in kids to be great human beings. And then that helps them to do better in school, we have found.
Well, thank you. That is an incredibly comprehensive explanation, and I'm going to suggest that I heard a secret sauce in there. and the secret sauce is that you're dealing with the whole person, and that you're focusing on the essence of what being an effective and successful person in life is, as a component part of the broader question of, okay, you're here to get an education, but you're actually here to become an outstanding human being. And so I'm hearing a whole person solution versus I just want you to get this lesson plan. I mean, have I interpreted it right? You might not say that's the secret sauce, but have I at least interpreted the foundations of what you've suggested?
You have. I think that is very correct. And that is one way of looking at it. I hadn't focused on it being the secret sauce. You grow up you and I are from the same generation. Those are basic things that our parents teach us, or taught us, I should say, in our generation. And the missing piece that I find in this generation is that there is a real breakdown in the family structure. And so you're not getting, in some environments, but some inner city environments, they don't have the grandparents and the great-grandparents and parents that are teaching them at this level of what it should be. Not to say that what they're being taught is wrong, it's just that these are values that we stood by when we were growing up. And so it's what we are doing as a school, and being an independent charter school, we're able to do that, as opposed to the traditional public school where you're bound by certain things you can do and you can't do.
And that's exactly where I wanted to segue. So as a charter school, you are funded just like a traditional public school. Am I right about that?
Correct.
And the students that you get, are you selecting them? On what basis can a student come to Wilder Academy?
So for public charter schools, admissions is based on a lottery process. And each charter is established with certain guidelines as to how you're going to do that. But you are required to have any and everybody that wants to apply to fill out an application. In our charter, we give first preference to residents that live in the city of Inglewood. And the second preference goes to a family of staff. And the No, second preference is for, yes, family of staff. And then third goes to siblings. And then there's other. So there's a weighted admission. So everybody, we have the lottery drawing where all numbers are pulled. And then it's weighted in that order. And depending upon the availability that we have in each class, that's how you get admitted. Now, keep in mind that kindergarten is the best opportunity to start at Wilders because we traditionally have 60 openings each year. So if you get in at kindergarten, you just matriculate all the way through 8th grade. For the other grades, if someone doesn't leave or move, out of the state, there are very few openings. So there's approximately an average of maybe 2 or 3 openings in each class each year for hundreds of applicants that are trying to get in.
So, but as it relates to so you've got a bunch of kids. I mean, Inglewood is a low income environment, generally speaking. I mean, it's got some diversity socioeconomically. Are you finding? What I'm really trying to understand is whether or not are you cherry picking the best kids, or are you in effect saying, "Hey, I'm pulling from the general population, and we're doing something different that is allowing them to get a better outcome"?
We pull from the general population. So a little bit about the governance over charter schools. That is something that's not allowed. Many would say we would love to cherry pick, the kid, but it's not possible. And the audit records are audited. So you have the process of them filling out an application. All of that has to be public knowledge. And then the lottery drawing is a public thing. We have someone from the Inglewood School District Board that comes out and pulls the numbers for us. And then the weighted list is a public document. So it is literally impossible to get around any, to be able to cherry pick and all that. And it actually proves to be very fair because it gives people all of this, the same opportunity. And it's why it's called the lottery, because it's the luck of the draw.
Mm-hmm. So help me to understand. I know you have a principal, correct?
Correct.
And so, what I mean, what is your exact position at the school?
So my position is titled the Chief Executive Officer of the Wilder Foundation that governs the school. So the structure runs like this. So it's a run under a 501(c)(3). In that you have to have a board of governance or board of trustees, and you have a registered officer who is the chief executive officer, which happens to be myself. And so I am tasked with the runnings of the organization. It would almost be equivalent to the superintendent of a school district.
Sure. Okay.
That's how it would look if it were a larger organization with that structure. So from that point on, we then have all of the traditional administrative staff, the principal, the assistant principal, all the way down to, teachers, counselors, aides, cafeteria staff, everything that it takes to run and operate a school. So my task oversees the budgeting, the big picture items, all of the regulations and compliances that have to be met by the state. And I report to the Board of Trustees.
So we're talking to Ramona Wilder. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Wilder Preparatory Academy. We're going to take a quick break and come back and continue our conversation. I'm going to pause, stop